If you value your money, you should seriously consider avoiding these watches. Some of them are just terrible quality, some are using fear of missing out techniques to make you spend, and some are just a straight up rip-off. I talk about watches that you should buy all the time on this channel, from my top 10 watches videos to the classic watch reviews, from big Japanese brands to small independent micro brands. Today though is different. I'll be discussing some watches that I personally avoid at all costs, because I value my money and I hate being ripped off. Now this first one might raise a few eyebrows, but hear me out. Seiko seemingly releases a new limited edition model every month, and most of the time they're actually a super cool watch. I must admit, I myself have been very tempted to pick up a few of these Seiko's limited editions. After all, the idea of owning something that's a bit harder to find is quite attractive. Owning a basic 5KX model that's as common as muck? No thanks. But what if I told you that Seiko limited editions are about as limited as seats in a stadium? For example, this limited edition Seiko had 15,000 watches made. 15,000! That's more watches than most micro brands sell in an entire year. So basically, almost any micro brand watch is more limited edition than a limited edition Seiko. Again, great watches, full of fun and character, and I'll likely end up owning one myself in the future. But don't get fooled by the limited edition label into thinking that you're getting something that's super exclusive. Owning a Seiko limited edition is like calling Domino's Pizza your favorite hidden gem pizza spot. And it's genuinely a shame that some of Seiko's best work is hiding behind this massively inflated limited edition paywall, because the spec sheets they deliver on these limited editions are usually the exact same as similar models. And they can't even use the exclusivity excuse either, because they're making these watches in the bucket loads. Obviously, if you like one, then buy it, forget what I say. But Seiko limited editions are definitely one to avoid if you value your money. Now I'm sure a lot of you have seen these next watches floating around the internet, and they've either piqued your interest or you thought they're a load of shite. Listen, I'm all for artistic expression, and I'm a huge advocate for being original and trying to create something unique. But I think that this uniqueness comes at an absurd cost. Custom watches are nothing new in the watch world, and customizing a watch to personal taste is something I think is exceptionally cool. But there's one area of custom watches that outright confuses me. Brands like IFL watches offer popular pieces with custom dials. Basically, they'll take a £300 Citizen Soyosa, repaint the dial, and charge 3 times the price. Now, I'll let you decide whether a in-house, hand-painted dial by an unknown artist is worth £600. But these custom watches also come with some huge drawbacks. First of all, you will absolutely lose your manufacturer's warranty with a custom dial on the watch. For example, if your movement stops working and you take it to Citizen under a warranty claim, they'll refuse to work on the watch because it's been customized. Now, some of these custom websites, like IFL Watches, might offer a warranty themselves, but this area is incredibly vague. Their terms of service, for example, states that their warranty covers, quote, defects arising from the customization process. This is incredibly unclear. How would we know if the defect came from the customization process? Does this mean that only the dial is under warranty? What about the most important part of the watch, the movement? Again, this is just super vague. But the real kicker with these custom watches is their resale value. They frequently sell on the secondary market for considerably less than their retail price, often meaning you could lose over half of your money. Take the Ghouls Concept by IFL Watches, £890 brand new, yet one recently sold on eBay for just £250. That is a colossal loss to take on a watch. Yes, these watches are a ton of fun, but they are potentially one to avoid if you value your money. Yeah, I'm not going to dress this one up, the PRX Digital. I think this is one of the worst buys in the enthusiast market. Not necessarily because Tissot has delivered a bad watch here, but it's just a hard ask to pay this kind of cash when Casio offers much more compelling options. I mean, let's not forget to mention that this is one of the ugliest watches to ever meet the internet. I didn't know that a digital display could look so bad inside of a circle. But fair play to Tissot, they've somehow managed to do it. How have Casio managed to get this right so many times, yet Tissot couldn't do it once? I know most will mention that the Tissot wipes the floor with the Casio in terms of quality, and you can't debate that, it's just true. You'll certainly struggle to find a piece of sapphire on a Casio, but steel and decent finishing, well, that's plentiful. And you can take matters into your own hands and upgrade your Casio yourself. You can buy mod kits for less than the digital PRX that turn Casios into a spec monster. Sapphire crystals, 100 meters of water resistance, solid steel with great finishing. There are plenty of options out there without needing to buy this ugly ass watch. By the way, no hate towards the Quartz PRX, I still think that is an excellent buy, but the PRX Digital, just buy almost any other Casio instead. I think that the collaboration watch is an area that you should explore with extreme caution. This is where two different brands come together to work on a watch. Sometimes it's two actual watch brands like Omega X Swatch, sometimes it's a platform like Hodinkee x Timex, and sometimes it's a person and a watch brand like Ed Sheeran x G-Shock. And not all collaborations are bad, by the way. I actually think some of them are pretty cool, but it's worth remembering that the more mouths to feed require more food. Basically, the more brands involved, the more money is needed to make everyone happy. That typically means that collaboration watches feature a much higher price than the watch would otherwise have. Take the recent Kith Hoyer collaboration, an absolute embarrassment of a release. A watch with bang average specifications being sold for $1,500. Why? Well, more fingers in the pie. Kith wants their profit and so does Tag Heuer. This is a watch that could have been done for $800 and it would have been a huge success, both financially and with the press. Even the Ed Sheeran G-Shock, approximately 3 times the price of the same model that doesn't feature the Ed Sheeran stamp. And don't even get me started on how the Moon Swatch has been milked into oblivion. Collaboration watches are extremely cool, I'll give it to them, but only if done at around the same price as the brand would typically charge for their other models. But once the price starts to creep up, I think a lot of the passion gets lost and the desire for extreme profit becomes very clear. I recently made a full video covering this next watch brand and how I think they make some terrible watches. So for those of you who have seen that, I'll keep this section short and sweet. Basically, I think Timex delivers a lot less for the price than almost any other watch brand. The Timex standard range, for example, is probably the worst watch I have ever reviewed, yet somehow nowhere near the cheapest. This watch had a chrome-plated brass case, a flat mineral crystal, and a quartz movement that was louder than a train. Not to mention how bad the watch looked under macro. The polished handset was full of scratches and dust, the dial printing was rough and sloppy. It was far from what you'd expect with a watch brand full of history and prestige. And this wasn't my first time being disappointed with a Timex watch, by the way. It's happened on multiple occasions. For example, another Timex I picked up had one of the worst quality control errors I'd ever seen. The Timex logo had a big black blob of paint right next to it. This is something that you just don't expect to see from a serious watch brand like Timex. No matter how much the watch costs, you expect to see a decent level of quality control. Timex, in my opinion though, has absolutely let their standards slip. They're a far cry from the company that they used to be back in the 50s and 60s. I don't think that the majority of the current Timex catalogue offers as much value for money as some reviewers claim. They for sure sell some interesting pieces, but they do also sell some absolute trash. So if you're wondering what watches I think you should buy, then go and watch this top 10 video here where I go through 10 watches that are absolutely exceptional. Go and check it out. 10 great watches. I'll see you over there, guys. Bye for now.